Okay, what I'm looking at here is we're calling the Wingman. And the Wingman is an application that sits in between the limousine manager software and the tracking software that Mark uses in his daily operations for his limousine business. So what this application does is takes information from the limousine manager software and processes that information into a series of tables, and then it uses logic to integrate with the tracking software to see what jobs are going on where, and whether the vehicles allocated to those jobs are going to get to those jobs on time. And then it can do a series of things based on whether they're going to make it to the job on time or not make it to the job on time. The reason for this application is to try and prevent breakdowns or job failures where a job gets missed or is very late, causing an upset customer ahead of time, especially when it's busy. You have someone like Mark who is overseeing often several jobs at the same time and not keeping a minute by minute track of every driver going to every job. And sometimes drivers make mistakes or problems occur, and if the customer gets left in the dark about what's going on, they're obviously very upset and it's potentially a lost customer. So with this application, when it sees that a driver is not where he needs to be or he or she needs to be, Mark gets warned through email and SMS that this job might be a problem job and to take whatever action is necessary to fix it. The basic principle of the software revolves around an application that's written in Microsoft Outlook. The reason for this is Mark has access to fairly cheap virtual machines, VMs, and I'm very familiar with the Visual Basic development environment, but it also integrates closely with a couple of Microsoft SQL databases which are in Microsoft's Azure Cloud, and those SQL databases hold all the relevant information that the app generates and then refers back to. The first SQL database is app specific, and the second database runs the tracking software. What you're seeing is control panel of what's happening with the application. You can start and stop it, and then on the left is a series of information fields which show the basic settings of the applications. And on the right hand side of the control panel form is an ongoing debugger showing what the application is doing at any particular time, and the application works in batches. So basically once a minute it processes a series of commands that it needs to process frequently. These commands one of them relates to checking whether vehicles are in the geofences they need to be in or not. It checks that all the time because it needs to know in almost real time or near real time whether the vehicles are inside the geofences that they need to be in or not. So what the application does is takes information that is sent to it, and it gets sent in an email format at this point. The reason for that is the limousine manager software that Mark uses, its primary method of communicating job information to drivers and clients is by email. So what we've done is we've piggybacked off of those emails to basically BCC those emails to an inbox which the tracking application has access to, and we encode some information in those emails. The tracking application decodes that encoded information, and that's where it gets its basic job information. From that list of jobs, it then decides what geofences are required. So a geofence is a circle of a given radius centered on the location of the pickup for that job. Often for jobs which are far away from the center of town, the geofence will be larger because it takes more time to get to a job which is far away from town than it does for a job which is in town. So we customize the radius of these geofences based on where the job is occurring. It also knows what time the job is occurring, so it knows when we want the geofence to be created, and we create the geofence before the job because we need to know ahead of when the pickup is actually to occur whether or not the driver is where he needs to be ahead of time. And the method we've chosen to go with is a method where we create 3 geofences for each pickup. We create a large geofence, a medium, and a small geofence. And what I'm going to do now is switch over to the tracking software and show you an example of that. So this is the tracking software, and what you see here is a map of the Perth region, which is where Mark's business is situated. And on the left hand side are a list of all the geofences that have been created in the system. So some of these we're not using, but the ones we are using are the ones which start with GW and QS. And in this example, I'll go to this QS 113459D. Then there's 3 entries for that QS 113459D. There's an L, an M, and an S. And the L is the large geofence. Medium is the next size down, obviously, and then we have a small geofence. And what happens is the large geofence gets created first, and within a certain period of time, it might be 30 minutes or 15 minutes or 40 minutes, it just depends how big the geofence is. We need to see the driver inside that geofence that amount of time before the pickup. And if he's not in the geofence by that time, a warning email gets sent, as well as an SMS to notify Mark that the driver is not inside the geofence. The same thing happens for the medium and small geofences as the driver gets closer to his job. And in this case we have about 15 geofences set up right now. There's quite a few jobs going on at one time. But as those jobs occur, they get taken out of the system and removed so that this list is constantly being updated with only the geofences for jobs which are active right now. So I'm actually going to refresh this tracking application, and the list of geofences has dropped down because several of those ones I was looking at are now past jobs. So the application, switching back over to that, it's constantly running, constantly inserting these geofences, notifying Mark, the administrator, of potential problem jobs, writing schedules, or it's able to determine a driver's schedule. So if a driver wants to send a query to the application for his schedule, he sends a pre-formatted email from a link that he gets. He sends that pre-formatted email to the application. The application sends him back an email with his schedule for upcoming jobs. It does things like that, and it's actually very helpful overall to overcome some of the limitations of the limousine management software, which is very good at booking jobs, tracking costs and what the price needs to be, and allocating drivers and all those types of functions. But where it's weak is in then the tracking of the jobs as they occur in real time. The tracking software, where it excels, switching back to that, Mark has installed GPS tracking devices in a majority of the vehicles, so we can see most of those drivers on the screen and their position is updated in real time. So tracking software does a great job of reporting where they are and when they're entering geofences and things like this. But it's the space that exists in the middle between managing the jobs, organising invoices and accounts and all that type of thing, which the limousine software does, and tracking vehicles in real time, which is the tracking software does. It's the space in between, which we're calling the Wingman, where this application sits that takes some information from the limousine manager. It also takes some information from the tracking software, and then it's a very useful task in the middle, in which elements of both tracking and management are combined, and that's why we call it the Wingman, because we hope the Wingman's got Mark's back, and it helps him do his job better and have less problems or failures like a good Wingman would need to be. So that's just an overview of what this application is doing. Thank you very much.